The moment that makes every cat owner uncomfortable, it usually happens. At the exact moment the house becomes completely silent. No television playing in the background, no footsteps coming from another room, no movement outside the window, just silence. Then suddenly your cat stops, not in a normal way, not like it simply got distracted for a second. Its entire body becomes still. The eyes lock onto a specific point somewhere in the room, usually a corner, a hallway, a doorway, or an empty wall that seems completely ordinary to you. And for the next few seconds, sometimes even minutes, your cat stares without blinking, as if something invisible just entered the house. If you have ever experienced this late at night, you already know the feeling it creates. At first, you ignore it. Then you look at the same spot your cat is watching. Then your mind begins doing something automatic that every human brain does when faced with uncertainty. It starts searching for explanations. Because no matter how rational someone is, there is something deeply unsettling about seeing an animal react with absolute certainty to something you cannot perceive yourself. And what makes cats different is the intensity of their focus. Dogs usually react loudly, humans react emotionally, but cats become silent observers. Their pupils slowly expand, their ears rotate with microscopic precision. Sometimes their head follows movement across the room that human eyes cannot detect at all. And in those moments, it almost feels like your cat is connected to a layer of reality you stopped noticing a long time ago. Researchers who study feline behavior explain that cats experience the environment through senses far more sensitive than ours. Their hearing can detect frequencies humans are physically incapable of hearing. Their eyes are specialized to notice tiny movements in low-light conditions. Even their whiskers react to subtle changes in airflow and vibration around them. What feels like an empty room to you may actually be filled with information for a cat. A tiny insect moving inside a wall, a distant vibration coming through the floor, a sound traveling through pipes, a reflection of light invisible to human perception. Cats process all of this silently. And because they don't react emotionally the way humans do, their behavior often feels mysterious instead of logical. Specialists in animal behavior observed that cats spend enormous amounts of time simply watching before reacting. They analyze first, they track movement patiently. Their instincts were built through thousands of years of survival as predators that depended on detecting the smallest possible detail before making a move. That instinct never disappeared. Even the most affectionate house cat sleeping on your bed still carries the nervous system of a highly alert hunter. And sometimes, that instinct activates in ways that humans cannot immediately understand. That is why these moments stay in people's minds for years. Almost every cat owner remembers a moment when their cat stared into nothing so intensely that it created genuine discomfort inside the room. Because deep down, the fear does not come from the cat itself. The fear comes from the possibility that your cat noticed something before you did. And the strangest part is that sometimes, seconds later, a sound appears. Someone walks nearby, an object moves. Or something changes in the environment exactly where the cat was staring. Which raises a question most people try not to think about for too long. What if your cat is not staring at empty space at all? Cats don't see the world like humans do. One of the biggest mistakes people make when trying to understand cats is assuming they experience the world the same way humans do. They don't. A cat does not walk into a room and perceive it the way you perceive it. What looks quiet to you may feel extremely active to them. What seems empty to your eyes may be filled with movement, vibration, sound, and sensory information your brain completely filters out. And this is exactly why cats sometimes stop and stare at places that appear meaningless to humans. Researchers who study feline perception explain that cats evolved with senses designed for survival in ways humans can barely imagine. Their nervous system was built to detect tiny environmental changes long before danger becomes visible. In nature, missing a subtle movement could mean losing prey or becoming prey themselves. That sensitivity still exists inside modern domestic cats. Their hearing alone is extraordinary. Cats can detect frequencies far higher than humans can hear, including tiny scratching sounds inside walls, electrical vibrations from devices, distant footsteps, and movements that happen far outside the range of human awareness. Sometimes, your cat is reacting to something real that physically exists around you, but your ears were never capable of detecting it. Their vision works differently too. Humans focus on detail and color. Cats focus on motion. Specialists in animal behavior explain that feline eyes are extremely sensitive to small and sudden movement, especially in dim lighting. Even the slightest flicker of light, the movement of dust particles, reflections on surfaces, or tiny insects moving across a room can instantly capture a cat's attention. That empty corner your cat keeps staring at may not be empty to them at all. There may be shadows shifting from outside lights, microscopic movement near the floor, or reflections your brain automatically ignores because humans evolved to focus on entirely different visual priorities. Cats also experience the environment through touch in ways most people never realize. Their whiskers are not just facial hair. Scientists observed that whiskers function almost like sensory antennas, detecting airflow changes, spatial dimensions, and subtle vibrations around nearby objects. This means a cat can sometimes feel movement in a room before actually seeing it. That is why many cats suddenly freeze and focus intensely before any visible action happens. To humans, the reaction feels mysterious because we only notice the result. The cat noticed the signal long before we became aware of anything changing. And perhaps the strangest part is how silent cats become while processing all this information. Humans usually react instantly. Cats observe first. They remain motionless because their brain is analyzing, tracking, measuring, weighting. Studies of feline hunting behavior show that cats naturally enter deep states of concentration when they detect uncertain movement or unfamiliar stimuli. Their entire body shifts into observation mode. Every muscle becomes controlled. Every sound becomes important. And when you witness this behavior inside your home, especially at night, your brain struggles to accept that your cat may simply be responding to sensory information beyond your perception. Because, deep down, humans are uncomfortable with the idea that another creature inside the same room may be experiencing an entirely different version of reality. And once you understand how differently cats perceive the world, their silent stares start becoming less supernatural and far more fascinating. But what makes this even stranger is that there is another reason cats become so intensely focused on seemingly invisible things. An ancient instinct that never disappeared. The predator instinct that never disappeared. No matter how calm, affectionate, or lazy your cat may seem during the day, there is something ancient still living inside its mind. A survival instinct that never disappeared. Experts in feline behavior explain that domestic cats may sleep on soft blankets and depend on humans for food. But their brains are still wired like hunters. Deep inside, your cat carries the same instincts that allowed wild felines to survive for thousands of years by detecting movement, tracking danger, and reacting to the smallest environmental changes before anything else noticed them. And this instinct changes the way cats observe the world around them. Humans usually look at environments in a broad and distracted way. Cats do the opposite. Their attention narrows completely when something captures their senses. That is why a cat staring into space can feel so intense. Because when cats focus, they do it with their entire nervous system. Researchers observed that predators do not immediately attack or react when they detect something unusual. First, they freeze. They study. They calculate movement patterns, they analyze risk. Every second of silence is part of the instinctive process that once determined survival in the wild. Your cat still does this today, even inside your bedroom. Even while staring at a wall that seems completely empty to you, what appears to be nothing may actually be a tiny movement your eyes failed to register. A nearly invisible insect, a subtle vibration, a shifting shadow, or even a sound traveling through the structure of the house. Cats were designed to notice these things before they become obvious. That is why their reactions often happen earlier than ours. Specialists explain that feline brains are incredibly efficient at detecting micro-movements, while humans prioritize faces, colors, conversations, and large visual information. Cats instinctively scan for tiny irregularities in motion. Their survival once depended on noticing the slightest twitch in grass, the faintest movement in darkness, or the smallest vibration beneath the ground. And this ancient hunting system never turned off simply because cats became pets. In fact, researchers observed that many domestic cats still enter hunting focus several times a day, even when there is nothing to hunt. The instinct activates automatically whenever their senses detect uncertain stimuli. That explains why cats sometimes become completely motionless while staring at empty areas. Their body is not relaxing, it is processing. Their ears rotate independently, searching for a directional sound. Their pupils adjust to gather more visual detail. Their muscles subtly tense, without most owners even noticing. Everything inside the cat becomes focused on understanding whether something in the environment requires attention. And what makes this behavior so unsettling to humans is the silence that comes with it. Cats do not panic. They do not explain. They simply watch. There is something psychologically disturbing about seeing an animal become deeply alert while you remain unaware of what triggered the reaction. Human brains naturally interpret uncertainty as danger. So, when your cat suddenly freezes and stares intensely into darkness, part of your own survival instinct quietly activates too. You start wondering if you missed something important. And strangely enough, sometimes you did. Many cat owners describe moments where their cat stared at a specific location seconds before hearing a noise, spotting movement, or noticing something unusual themselves. Scientists explain this through sensory speed and instinctive processing. Cats simply detect environmental changes earlier than humans do, not because they are supernatural, but because they never stopped being predators. And once you realize how much of your cat's mind is still controlled by these ancient instincts, another question begins to appear. If cats are constantly detecting things humans overlook, how many moments have you mistaken for nothing when your cat was actually completely focused on something real? Why cats sometimes stare at nothing for minutes? One of the strangest things about cats is not just that they stare into empty space, it is how long they do it. Sometimes a cat will remain completely focused on the same spot for several minutes without moving at all. No blinking, no distraction, no visible reason for the behavior. And the longer it continues, the more uncomfortable it becomes for the person watching. Because humans are not used to that level of silent concentration, our attention constantly jumps from one thing to another. Cats are different. When something captures their senses, they can enter an almost hypnotic state of observation, and most of the time, there is a real reason behind it. Researchers who study feline behavior explain that cats are extremely sensitive to environmental details humans naturally ignore. Tiny light reflections moving across walls, subtle shadows caused by passing cars outside, vibrations inside floors, or even distant sounds traveling through pipes can hold a cat's attention much longer than people expect. What your brain filters out automatically, your cat may continue analyzing in complete silence. Specialists observed that cats are particularly sensitive to movement patterns that appear irregular or unpredictable. A tiny insect hidden near the ceiling, dust particles crossing a beam of light, the faint flicker of an electronic device, even microscopic changes in brightness can instantly trigger a cat's focus. To humans, these details are meaningless background information. To cats, they may feel important enough to monitor closely, and there is another reason this behavior can last so long. Feline brains are naturally built for patience. In nature, predators survive by waiting. Wildcats sometimes remain motionless for long periods while tracking prey. They conserve energy, observe quietly, and avoid unnecessary movement until they fully understand what they are detecting. Domestic cats inherited this exact same neurological behavior. That is why your cat can stare at one small area with astonishing intensity while appearing completely disconnected from everything else around it. But there are moments when the explanation becomes even stranger. Some experts believe cats occasionally continue staring because their senses captured something that disappeared before they could fully identify it. A sound stops, a movement vanishes, a vibration fades away. Yet, the cat keeps watching because its brain remains locked onto the possibility that the stimulus could return. Humans usually lose interest quickly when something disappears. Cats often do the opposite. They wait. And this creates those eerie moments. Every cat owner remembers moments where the room feels too quiet. Moments where your cat appears completely absorbed by something invisible. Moments where you start staring at the same place simply because your cat's behavior makes your own instincts activate. Researchers in animal psychology explain that humans unconsciously trust animal reactions. When an animal becomes intensely focused, part of the human brain assumes there must be a reason. This is why people often feel nervous when cats stare into darkness for long periods. Not because they truly believe something supernatural is there, but because their instincts quietly whisper that the cat noticed something first. And sometimes, the truth is far simpler and far more fascinating than people imagine. Your cat may be tracking sounds hidden inside walls, watching subtle air movement, following frequencies beyond human hearing, or reacting to environmental details so small your senses never had a chance to perceive them. Yet, despite all the scientific explanations, there are still moments that leave owners deeply unsettled, because certain feline behaviors feel almost impossible to ignore once the lights go out and the house becomes silent. The strange moments that scare owners. Every cat owner has at least one moment they never completely forget. A moment where their cat behaved so strangely that the entire atmosphere inside the house changed. Sometimes it happens during the middle of the night. The room is dark, everything is quiet, and suddenly your cat lifts its head and stares directly into a hallway with absolute focus. Not casually, not with curiosity, but with the kind of attention that immediately makes your body tense, without you understanding why. Then come the small details that make the moment even more unsettling. The pupils slowly expand, the ears begin following something invisible through the air. The head moves slightly as if tracking movement across the room. And sometimes, your cat suddenly reacts before any sound reaches you at all. Researchers who study feline sensory behavior explain that cats process environmental changes much faster than humans do. Their hearing reacts almost instantly to distant or subtle frequencies, and their brains are constantly scanning for irregular movement or unfamiliar sounds, even while resting. That is why many cats appear to predict noises before humans notice them. A person approaching outside the house, pipes shifting inside walls, floor vibrations, small animals moving in hidden spaces. Cats often detect these signals several seconds earlier than we can. But what truly frightens people is not the behavior itself. It is the silence surrounding it. Humans feel uncomfortable when something reacts to information they cannot access. And cats have a way of becoming intensely focused without giving emotional clues. They do not bark, panic, or warn you loudly. They simply stare, completely still, as if they know something you don't. Specialists in animal psychology explain that this triggers a deep instinctive reaction in humans. Our brains naturally become alert when another living creature suddenly shifts attention towards something unknown. It is an ancient survival response shared across species. In other words, sometimes your fear is not caused by the cat. It is caused by your own instincts reacting to the cat's certainty. And there are moments that amplify this feeling even more. Cats staring at empty staircases, watching dark corners for long periods, suddenly turning toward ceilings or closed doors, freezing in silence while their eyes follow movement no one else can see. Some owners even describe waking up in the middle of the night and finding their cat sitting motionless beside the bed, staring toward darkness somewhere inside the room. Those are the moments people remember for years, because even when science explains most of these behaviors logically, the emotional impact still feels powerful, especially at night. Especially when the cat's attention seems too intense to ignore. Researchers observed that cats are naturally more active and alert during dawn and nighttime hours because their senses evolved for low-light hunting conditions. In darkness, their awareness sharpens while human perception weakens. That imbalance makes feline behavior appear even stranger after sunset. Your cat becomes more observant precisely when you become less capable of understanding the environment yourself. And that combination creates the perfect psychological discomfort. But there is another detail most people never consider. Sometimes your cat may not be staring at the environment at all. Sometimes, while you believe your cat is focused on empty space, it may actually be observing something much closer. Your cat may be reading your emotions without you realizing. Most people assume their cat is always observing the environment, the walls, the hallway, the shadows, the movement around the house, but experts in feline behavior explain that cats spend far more time studying humans than humans realize. And sometimes, when you think your cat is staring into empty space, it may actually be silently analyzing you. Researchers observed that cats are extremely sensitive to emotional and behavioral changes in the people they trust. They notice small differences in routine, breathing patterns, posture, tone of voice, and even subtle facial tension long before humans become consciously aware of these changes themselves. Your cat watches constantly, quietly, carefully. That is one reason cats often seem to appear beside people during moments of sadness, anxiety, stress, or emotional exhaustion. Specialists believe cats learn to associate tiny physical signals with emotional states over time. A slower walk through the house, long periods of silence, different energy and body movement, changes in sleep patterns, a different tone while speaking. Humans overlook these details in each other every day. Cats often do not. And because cats communicate primarily through observation rather than loud reactions, their attention can feel mysterious to owners. Sometimes a cat stares not because it sees something invisible in the room, but because it senses a shift in your emotional state. Your breathing changed, your body became tense, your mood became heavier, and the cat noticed. Studies involving feline-human interaction suggest that cats become highly attentive to predictable emotional patterns. They may not understand emotions the way humans describe them, but they absolutely recognize changes in behavior and energy associated with those emotions. That explains why some cats suddenly become more observant during moments when their owners feel emotionally overwhelmed. And, strangely enough, many people only realize this after looking back on difficult periods in their lives. They remember the cat staying unusually close, watching them silently, following them from room to room, sitting nearby without demanding attention, as if the animal sensed something long before words were ever spoken. Specialists explain that cats often rely more on observation than direct interaction. Unlike dogs, which usually respond outwardly and immediately, cats tend to process information internally first. They study patterns, they compare routines, they notice inconsistencies. That is why their staring behavior can feel so personal sometimes. Because occasionally, your cat is not focused on the room at all. It is focused entirely on you, watching your reactions, trying to understand your emotional condition, reading subtle signals your own mind barely notices. And perhaps this is one of the reasons humans feel such a deep emotional connection with cats despite their silence. Cats do not constantly demand explanations. They observe without interruption. They stay present without forcing interaction. And in moments when humans feel emotionally disconnected from the world around them, that silent presence can feel strangely comforting. But there is another reason this behavior affects people so deeply. The discomfort humans experience when a cat stares intensely into space says just as much about the human mind as it does about the cat itself. The reason this behavior feels so disturbing to humans, the strange feeling people experience when a cat stares into empty space, does not come only from the cat. It comes from the human mind trying to deal with uncertainty. Researchers in psychology explained that the human brain is constantly searching for patterns, explanations, and meaning in everything happening around us. When we cannot immediately explain something, especially behavior coming from another living creature, the brain naturally becomes alert. And cats create the perfect conditions for that discomfort. They are silent, they are observant, they react with precision. And worst of all, for the human imagination, they often react to things we cannot detect ourselves. That combination activates a very old instinct inside people. Throughout human history, survival depended on noticing danger before it became obvious. Humans learned to observe animal behavior carefully because animals often sensed threats earlier than people could. A sudden reaction from birds, horses, dogs, or cats frequently meant something in the environment had changed. Part of that instinct still exists today, even inside modern homes. That is why your attention immediately shifts when your cat suddenly freezes and stares intensely at one specific location. Your brain quietly asks, what did it notice? And the longer the cat keeps staring, the stronger that feeling becomes. Especially at night. Darkness naturally increases uncertainty for humans because our senses become less reliable in low-light conditions. Vision weakens, sounds become harder to identify. Shadows distort perception. In those moments, seeing another creature behave with total confidence while you remain confused creates psychological tension almost instantly. Specialists in animal psychology explain that humans subconsciously trust confident behavior in animals. If an animal appears calm, people relax. If an animal suddenly becomes alert and focused, human attention automatically follows. Cats trigger this reaction very strongly because of how controlled their body language becomes when observing something unusual. No wasted movement, no unnecessary noise, just complete stillness. And stillness can feel more disturbing than chaos. Researchers also observed that humans tend to project imagination into silence. When there is no visible explanation for a cat's behavior, the mind begins filling empty space with possibilities. That is why people sometimes start imagining supernatural explanations even when logical explanations exist. Not because humans truly believe cats are seeing ghosts, but because uncertainty makes imagination louder. And cats unknowingly intensify that effect through the way they observe the world. Their eyes remain fixed for long periods. Their ears follow invisible sounds. Their reactions happen before ours. Sometimes they suddenly turn toward darkness with startling speed. All of this creates the sensation that the cat knows something we do not. And emotionally, that feeling is difficult for humans to ignore. But there is another deeper reason this behavior affects people so strongly. Cats represent something humans have slowly lost over time: the ability to remain completely aware of the environment without distraction. Humans live surrounded by noise, screens, thoughts, stress, and constant stimulation. Cats do the opposite. They pause, they observe, they notice tiny environmental details without interruption. And when humans witness that level of awareness, especially in silence, it almost feels unnatural, as if the cat is connected to a quieter version of reality that people stopped paying attention to years ago. That may be why these moments stay in our memory for so long, because somewhere deep inside, humans recognize that cats are perceiving aspects of the environment we usually ignore. Not supernatural things, just subtle things. Tiny movements, distant sounds, invisible vibrations, emotional changes, the silent language of the world around us. And once you understand this, there is one very important mistake many owners begin making without realizing it. The biggest mistake people make when their cat does this: when people see their cat staring intensely into empty space, most of them react immediately. They call the cat's name, wave their hand in front of its face, pick the cat up, laugh nervously. Or worse, they panic and start treating the behavior like something paranormal. And according to specialists in feline behavior, this is one of the biggest mistakes owners make. Because in most cases, the cat is simply doing what its instincts naturally programmed it to do: observe. Researchers explain that cats rely heavily on uninterrupted focus when processing environmental information. When a cat locks onto a sound, movement, vibration, or unfamiliar stimulus, its brain enters a state of concentrated analysis. Interrupting that moment suddenly can create stress, confusion, or frustration for the animal. To humans, the behavior feels strange. To the cat, it feels completely normal. Specialists observed that many owners accidentally project their own fear onto the animal. The cat quietly stares at a wall, and the human immediately assumes something frightening must be happening. But cats often focus intensely on ordinary environmental details humans simply fail to notice. A tiny sound inside pipes, movement behind furniture, electrical frequencies from devices, shifting reflections, even airflow changes near doors and windows. Cats are constantly collecting information from the world around them. And the more intelligent and observant the cat is, the more often these moments may happen. Another mistake people make is assuming every intense stare means the cat is relaxed and healthy. Sometimes the behavior truly is normal curiosity and instinctive observation, but experts also explain there are situations where excessive staring may signal stress, anxiety, sensory overload, or even medical issues. That is why context matters. A healthy cat usually remains responsive to its environment, even while focused. The body stays balanced, the ears move naturally, the cat eventually relaxes or shifts attention normally. But if a cat appears disoriented, unresponsive for long periods, overly tense, or begins showing unusual behavioral changes alongside the staring, specialists recommend paying closer attention. Researchers observed that certain vision problems, neurological conditions, anxiety disorders, or cognitive decline in older cats can sometimes influence repetitive staring behavior. In these cases, the behavior feels different from ordinary feline observation because the cat appears disconnected rather than simply focused. That is why understanding your cat's normal behavior patterns is so important. Nobody understands your cat's routines better than you do. You notice when its behavior changes, you notice when its energy feels different, you notice when something seems unusual, and most of the time your instincts are correct. The important thing is not to immediately turn natural feline behavior into fear or fantasy. Cats evolved as highly sensitive observers. Much of what they do feels mysterious simply because humans experience the world in a far less attentive way. Experts in animal behavior often explain that humans want immediate explanations for everything, while cats are perfectly comfortable existing in silence, observation, and uncertainty. That difference changes how we interpret their actions. A cat does not need every sound explained. It does not need every shadow identified. It simply notices, processes, observes, and moves on. Perhaps the real lesson hidden inside these strange moments is not that cats are connected to something supernatural. Perhaps it is that humans have become disconnected from how much information constantly exists around them. And once you truly understand that, the way you see your cat begins to change completely. Because maybe your cat was never staring at nothing in the first place. Maybe your cat isn't seeing ghosts. Just a world humans stopped noticing. After understanding how cats perceive the world, one thing becomes impossible to ignore. Your cat is not living in the same sensory reality you are. While humans move through life distracted by noise, thoughts, routines, screens, and constant stimulation, cats remain deeply connected to the silent details of the environment around them. They notice movement before it becomes obvious. They detect sounds long before humans hear them. They observe patterns, vibrations, emotional changes, and tiny shifts in the atmosphere that most people unconsciously filter out every single day. And maybe that is why their behavior feels so mysterious to us. Not because cats are supernatural, but because they still pay attention to a world humans stopped noticing. Researchers who study feline behavior often describe cats as animals permanently tuned into observation mode. Even while resting, their senses continue collecting information from every direction. Their ears rotate independently, their whiskers monitor subtle air movement, their eyes constantly scan for motion and irregularity. To a cat, silence is never truly empty. There is always something happening. And perhaps humans once lived more like that too. More aware, more observant, more connected to the environment itself. But modern life trained people to ignore small details unless they demand immediate attention. Humans learned to silence background information in order to survive constant mental overload. Cats never lost that instinctive awareness. That is why those moments stay with us emotionally. The late-night stare into darkness, the sudden silence, the fixed gaze toward an empty hallway, the strange feeling that your cat noticed something before you did. Deep down, those moments force humans to confront something uncomfortable. There may be far more happening around us than we normally perceive. Not ghosts, not magic, just layers of sound, movement, energy, emotion, and sensory information our brains no longer prioritize. Experts explain that animals often remind humans how limited our perception truly is. Cats especially reveal this through the way they move through the world with patience, silence, and constant awareness. And maybe that is part of why humans feel so emotionally connected to them. Cats do not rush through life the way people do. They pause, they watch, they listen, they notice. Sometimes they sit in complete silence, simply observing light moving across a wall or listening to sounds nobody else hears. To humans, that behavior can feel eerie, but to the cat, it is simply awareness, pure attention, pure instinct. And perhaps the next time your cat suddenly stops and stares into empty space, instead of feeling afraid, you may begin seeing the moment differently. Maybe your cat is not reacting to something unnatural. Maybe it is reacting to a world that has always been there. A quieter world, a subtler world. A world filled with tiny signals humans stopped paying attention to long ago. And perhaps that is the real reason these moments feel so unforgettable. Because, for a few seconds, while watching your cat stare silently into the darkness, you also begin wondering what else exists around you that you no longer notice. And from that moment on, every silent stare from your cat will feel a little different.